Today, I want to come on here and critique some of the UFC rankings I absolutely disagree with. There have been some recent sneaky rankings changes, and Dana White and the UFC thought that nobody were going to see it, but I saw it. And a lot of people did notice it. And yeah, Bo Nickal is the inspiration for this video, and you'll see further down the video why. But let me just start off with just getting some things out the way. First of all, I do not think just because you were a champion at one time, you can just hover the rankings and be ranked number 3 or to number 10 forever. If you haven't had a win in 4 or 5 plus years, how on earth is some of these guys ranked in the top 10? It's absolutely absurd. And why aren't they falling down the rankings? That's another thing. If you're inactive, in my opinion, you should fall down the rankings due to inactivity. You should not just be able to sit out 20 years and then come back and, oh, he's ranked right there again. Like, I don't agree with that. I think the UFC rankings need a revamping. If you're not fighting, or you haven't won a fight in a long time, you need to fall down the rankings. That's what I want to preface this video with. So with that being said, I have 12 fighter rankings in this video I disagree with, and I want to go through each one and explain why I disagree and where they should be in the rankings in my opinion. Starting off with Henry Cejudo. Now listen, Triple C, the Olympic champion, flyweight champion, bantamweight champion, all that. Listen guys, Henry Cejudo does not have a win since he beat Dominic Cruz in 2020. We're now in 2025, and Henry Cejudo is ranked number 7. What is he ranked number 7 for? For losing to Merab? For losing to Aljamain Sterling? When is the last time this guy got a win that wasn't a ranked fighter? It was Marlon Moraes, way back when. And that was like in, what, 2019, 2018? Henry Cejudo does not have a win since 2020, and he's ranked number 7 in the bantamweight division. I heavily disagree with this. At best, he should be ranked like number 13 or 14. There are other guys grinding their way through the rankings that deserve to be ranked over Henry Cejudo. I don't want to hear this BS of, oh, he's a triple champion, Olympic champion, all this crap. I don't care. The rankings are supposed to be indicative of who's the best fighters in the world right now and who's earned their way up to the top. Who is beating ranked fighters to get up there? Henry Cejudo doesn't have a win over any active ranked fighter at bantamweight, I'm pretty sure. And he hasn't won a fight since 2020, as I've reiterated. So how on earth is this guy ranked number 7 is beyond me. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, in my opinion, you could have, like, I wouldn't even mind Rob Font being over Henry Cejudo. Song Yadong should be over Henry Cejudo. I mean, even Jose Aldo at this point. Maybe not, but you get my point. Just because Henry Cejudo is a legend and he's held 2 belts in 2 weight classes, I feel like the UFC is using that to justify having him ranked number 7, because what other reason would it be? Like I said, he doesn't have a win since 2020. I know he retired for a few years, but he came back and got 2 losses. Granted to the 2 of the greatest bantamweights, but it doesn't matter. Losses are losses. He lost those fights clearly. He lost the one to Aljo. It was decently close, but Aljo won clearly, and he got dominated by Merab. So how is Henry Cejudo still ranked number 7? It doesn't make sense. He needs to fall down to number 12 or 13. And if he loses to Song Yadong this weekend, good Lord, he should even be top 15. Let's get on to the next one, which is going to be Brian Ortega, ranked number 6. Now, Brian Ortega is what I like to call a rank squatter. Let me just say this guy has 1 win since 2020 over Yair Rodriguez, and his last win before that was a retired Korean zombie. Brian Ortega has beat absolutely nobody outside of Yair Rodriguez in the entire featherweight rankings, I don't think. And this guy has been a rank squatter for years. Brian Ortega is known for being inactive. Granted, he takes a lot of damage in his fights, but I'm not sure why. The UFC have given this guy a ton of privilege. He's like the Colby Covington of featherweight when it comes to rankings. Ranked number 6 in 2025, and he has 1 win in 5 years, is absolutely absurd. Brian Ortega should be ranked like number 14 or 15 due to inactivity, due to losses, due to just not fighting and not winning. That's it. I know he beat Yair Rodriguez, then he lost right away to Diego Lopez. Granted, he's fighting for the title. I'm not here to argue that Brian Ortega shouldn't be a ranked fighter. I'm here to argue that guys put way too much stock in the rankings in terms of like, oh, he had a close fight with Volkanovski. No, he didn't. He got mauled by Volkanovski. He got mauled by Max Holloway. He got mauled by Diego Lopez. So you don't get to get a participation trophy and be top 10 just because you fought the best guys in the world and you made it to the belt. That's not how it works. Brian Ortega, anytime he steps up and fights a top guy, he gets dog walked. And for whatever reason, this guy's still a top 10 fighter. I disagree. I think Brian Ortega should drop down to like at least outside the top 10. There are other guys like Arnold Allen, even Josh Emmett. I wouldn't mind being above Brian Ortega. I mean, maybe not, because Josh Emmett got twisted into a pretzel by Yair Rodriguez, whereas Brian Ortega beat him. But my point is, Brian Ortega is your typical rank squatter and your typical, oh, top 10. Like, this guy's just literally just given a top 10 ranking for the rest of his UFC career. For what? For having close fights with or having wars with Volkanovski and Max Holloway where he got absolutely destroyed for getting destroyed by Diego Lopez. I don't understand it. Brian Ortega should fall outside the top 10. I stand by that. Let's get on to the next one. Justin Gaethje being ranked number 3. Now, this one's not a huge deal. Justin Gaethje does have a win over Dustin Poirier. But here's where I disagree. Max Holloway's ranked number 5, but Justin Gaethje's ranked number 3. I don't think Max Holloway's loss to Poirier down a weight class should matter at all at lightweight. At the end of the day, Max Holloway moved up. He destroyed Justin Gaethje, and now he's an active lightweight fighter. I think Max Holloway should be ranked number 3. Gaethje should be ranked number 4, and Poirier should be ranked number 5. That would be the correct rankings. I don't know how you have Gaethje at 3 when Max Holloway absolutely destroyed him. Maybe if he beats Dan Hooker on UFC 313, you can justify it, but it just doesn't make sense. Holloway beats Gaethje, but stays under him in the rankings. Make it make sense. Either way, let's get on to the next one. Michael Chandler being ranked number 7 is an absolute abomination. This guy might be the most privileged ranked fighter in the history of the UFC. 2-4 in the UFC. Took out 2 years. What was it? From 2022 and 2023, he did not fight, and then he didn't fight all the way into the end of 2024. So he takes 2 years off of his career waiting for Conor McGregor, and whenever this guy does fight, he loses. He lost to Charles Oliveira twice. He got dog-walked by Justin Gaethje, and he got submitted by Dustin Poirier, and his most recent win is over Tony Ferguson, who's now in the GFL. Just let that sink in. I get it. He has a first-round KO over Dan Hooker. That was all the way back in 2021. Times have changed. He hasn't won a fight in I don't know how many years, since what, 2022? Going on 3 years now since Michael Chandler won a fight. Not only is he ranked top 10, he's ranked number 7. And it just doesn't make sense to me. Michael Chandler has been being done favors by the UFC because he waited out for the Conor fight. He didn't get it. So the UFC's like, well, Mr. Chandler, since you waited for Conor McGregor and he didn't come back, we'll let you hover the rankings forever, despite being 2-4 in the UFC. Since when does being 2-4 in the UFC allow you to hover around? I mean, this guy, I think he debuted in the UFC at number 5. And despite going 2-4 since his Dan Hooker win, or what is it? Since his Dan Hooker win, he's gone 1-4, and he's only dropped 2 ranking spots, and he was inactive for 2 years. Make it make sense. Michael Chandler at best should be ranked like number 12 or 13. And yeah, the guy he's fighting next, I have an issue with his ranking too. Let's get right into that. Paddy Pimblett, Dana White and company thought they were going to be slick with this one. Paddy Pimblett sliding up to number 12 in the rankings. Where did this come from? What? Did Paddy Pimblett beat Moicano? Did he beat Dariush? Am I unaware of a win that he's gotten? How did Paddy magically just slide up to the number 12 spot? His best win is Bobby Green, who hasn't been in the rankings for a few years now. And Bobby Green's beyond wash at this point. So it's like, how does Paddy Pimblett beating Bobby Green randomly have him out? And he didn't like do anything. Like randomly one day we woke up and Paddy Pimblett was ranked number 12. I mean, it didn't make sense to me. I think he was ranked like number 16 or 17, and then out of nowhere, boom, Paddy Pimblett, like a magician, ranked number 12. Make it make sense. Why do guys just randomly jump up in the rankings? There are other deserving contenders that are on more impressive win streaks that deserve to be in the rankings. I would rather Joe Alvarez rank number 12 over Paddy Pimblett. I mean, there's other guys, man. I think Grant Dawson should be ranked over Paddy Pimblett. Maybe not, but Grant Dawson's an 11-1 in the UFC. I mean, come on, dude. What are these rankings? Paddy Pimblett, they're just trying to make the fight with Michael Chandler bigger. So the way to do that is you up his ranking to number 12 and you keep Michael Chandler number 7. And you can say, oh, rank number 12, Paddy Pimblett versus number 7, Michael Chandler. It's weird, man. Like the rankings in the UFC are a joke. And I know I shouldn't even be ranting about this, but I'm just tired of rankings that make absolutely no sense. And I'm not saying Paddy sucks and he doesn't deserve to be ranked at all. At best, 15 though, bro. 12? How does he jump from unranked to 12 when he didn't do anything? He beat Bobby Green, what, last year? And then out of nowhere, he jumps to number 12 for no reason. I don't know. Make it make sense. Moving on to the next one. Speaking of the lightweight division, who doesn't deserve to be ranked? Benoit St Denis. Now, Benoit St Denis doesn't have a win in over 2 years, I believe. He got destroyed by Dustin Poirier, and then he got absolutely murked by Renato Moicano. And the French privilege is real because somehow Benoit St Denis is still ranked at number 15. Joe Alvarez could be ranked over him. Ludovic Klein arguably could be ranked over him. Fares Siam. All these guys are on win streaks, but for whatever reason, the UFC decides to keep Benoit St Denis in the rankings, despite getting destroyed by the only 2 ranked fighters that he's beat. His best win is Matt Frivola, who's on a losing streak now. So it's like, what has Benoit St Denis done? He was ranked number 12 forever, right? And then randomly the UFC dropped him to number 15. No, they should have completely dropped him out of the rankings. Paddy Pimblett nor Benoit St Denis shouldn't be in the rankings. I will say, I think Paddy being in the rankings is more justified than St. Denis. But either way, get both of these guys out the rankings. It doesn't make sense. who is doing this. The UFC and Dana White, like I said, they're sneaky. They think that we don't look at the rankings, but as fans, I keep an eye on those rankings. And you best believe when I see Paddy Pimblett and BSD ranked, I'm like, what is going on? So yeah, lightweight when it comes to rankings is all over the place. Like I mean, half the fighters on this video are from lightweight. So as you guys can see, I do not agree with most of the lightweight rankings. Let's get on to a welterweight ranking that makes no sense. Colby Covington being ranked number 9. How is Colby Covington still a top 10 welterweight? Just to remind you guys, Colby Covington's last 2 wins are Jorge Masvidal, who's retired, and Tyron Woodley, who's now in the GFL but has been retired for a few years. Tyron Woodley's 42 and Jorge Masvidal's 40. And Jorge Masvidal is not in the UFC. Colby Covington does not have a win over any active UFC fighter as far as I know. This guy's last win is nearly 3 years ago, and he just sits out and waits for title shots. And no, I do not think that just fighting for the title and losing should keep you a top 10 spot. I don't agree with that. Look what happened to Kai Asakura when he came to the UFC. He fought the champion and he got ranked all the way at number 14. I get it's a different circumstance, but still, Colby Covington has not beat anybody. He just got dog walked by Buckley. He beat Masvidal. He got dog walked by Leon Edwards and Usman twice. So it's like, what has Colby Covington done to still be a top 5 or top 10 welterweight in 2025? Like, what are we doing? Colby Covington should be like number 14 or 15, if that. This guy should be damn near dropped out of the rankings. But for whatever reason, well, I have a good idea because he's associated with Dana and his homeboy, you know, Mr. MAGA. So that's probably why Colby Covington is going to remain a top 10 fighter. But it's no secret this guy's on the tail end of his career. He's not winning fights, so he should not be a top 10 welterweight. Speaking of another guy who should not be in the top 5, Kamaru Usman. Listen, I don't want to hear that Kamaru Usman was the pound for pound number 1 fighter, undefeated, blah, 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 all this other stuff. That's all true. But with that being said, this guy does not want to fight. He's not won a fight since 2021. His last win was Colby Covington. Not only that, but this guy has not fought since October of 2023, and he didn't even fight at welterweight. He fought up a division against Khamzat Chimaev. So he has no wins since 2021, and he hasn't had a welterweight fight in over 2.5 years. And it's like, what are we doing with Kamaru Usman ranked number 3? You have JDM at number 4. I'd rather JDM be over Kamaru Usman. I mean, crap, Joaquin Buckley should be over Kamaru Usman at this point because Usman, due to inactivity and not winning a fight in nearly 4 years, should naturally drop down the rankings. Why are we just holding on to this, oh, dude, Kamaru Usman's a legend. You got to have him at number 3. No, you don't. Like, I don't care about that, dude. He hasn't won a fight in nearly 4 years, and he's ranked number 3. What are we doing? No shot Kamaru Usman should be ranked number 3. I wouldn't mind him being number 5, 6, 7, but 3, he hasn't even moved in the rankings in like, what, a year? And he hasn't done anything. He hasn't fought. Other guys have gotten wins. Shavkat has gotten wins. Buckley has gotten wins. JDM got a win over Burns after the last time Usman fought. And it's like Usman is still ranked number 3. I understand paying homage to the legends. He was undefeated for a long time, or only had 1 loss for a long time. Second longest UFC win streak. But at some point, it's got to give, man. No wins in nearly 4 years, and you're number 3 in the division. That's a bit questionable to me, and I disagree with this ranking. Moving on to the middleweight division, Israel Adesanya being ranked number 4. Now, this one's a tricky one, right? Because Israel Adesanya is ranked number 4, and at number 5 is Robert Whittaker. Now, what I would do with the rankings is I don't think Izzy should be top 5. I really don't. But it's a tricky one because the guys under him don't necessarily deserve to be over him. What I would argue, being that Israel Adesanya is on a 3-fight skid and 1-4 in his last 5, that you could put Robert Whittaker over him, despite Israel Adesanya having 2 wins over Robert Whittaker. I understand he beat the guy, he should be over him in the rankings argument, but I do think losses should count against you. Izzy should start. How is Izzy a top 5 fighter when he's 1-4 in his last 5? Who else has that privilege? Who else is 1-4 in their last 5 and is a top 5 fighter? Kamaru Usman's 0-3. That's decently close. But Israel Adesanya hasn't had a win since, what, 2023? And he's lost his last 3. Got dominated by Strickland, finished by DDP, and now knocked out by Imavov, and this guy's still a top 5 fighter. It doesn't make sense. Again, like I said, I understand the UFC wants to pay homage to the ranked fighters and you know, give them their flowers, or the legends, not the ranked fighters, give them their flowers. But at the end of the day, Israel Adesanya is not beating top guys. He's losing to them. Robert Whittaker has a recent win over Ikram Aliskerov. Fair enough, wasn't the best. And yeah, I mean, I guess Robert Whittaker or Izzy shouldn't be top 5. I think Izzy, honestly, I guess I'll walk back a little bit what I'm saying. I think Izzy being ranked number 4 is just a product of the middleweight division ahead of him just kind of being trash. I mean, under him, you could put, I think Cal Barajo should be number 4. Izzy should be 5, and Robert Whittaker should be 6. Because you can't put Jared Cannonier over Izzy. He's 1-2 in his last 3, and he's coming off of a win over Gregory Rodriguez. You can't put Marvin Vettori over him. He has 2 wins over Marvin Vettori. Brendan Allen's coming off a loss. It's like, I understand Israel Adesanya, I guess, being ranked top 5, but it's still weird to have a guy who's 1-4 in his last 5 and on the 3-fight skid still ranked as a top 5 fighter. So while I disagree with it, I also understand that you can't really do anything about this one because the guys under him don't deserve a jump up in the rankings. So to some degree, it makes sense, but I do think that Baraujo should take his spot at number 4 and he should be dropped to number 5. Either way, speaking of another middleweight fighter, Michel Pereira. Now, I know exactly why Michel Pereira moved up to number 13. It's because the UFC wanted to sneak somebody else into the rankings that we're going to get to right after Michel Pereira. But let me just say, Michel Pereira for a long time was a welterweight fighter, right? He started to struggle to make the weight cut, so he decided, I'm going to move up to middleweight. Fair enough, right? He moved up to middleweight, and he racked off 3 finishes. It was impressive. But with that being said, over who? Who's his best win at middleweight? Ihor Peteria? That guy's cut from the UFC as far as I know. And as far as I'm concerned, whenever Michel Pereira fought Anthony Hernandez, he got dog walked and finished. But yet he gets jumped up from number 15 to number 13 for losing to Anthony Hernandez. So the guy who dog walked him is only ranked 1 ahead of him. That's an extremely weird ranking. If anything, Michel Pereira should have been booted from the rankings. And I'd rather Rainer de Ritter in the rankings over Michel Pereira. Rainer de Ritter's getting wins. He's doing more than him. He's beat GM3. He's destroyed Kevin Holland. Why is Michel Pereira getting blessed with number 13? Oh, I know why. It's so they can sneak this little weasel in the rankings. Bo Nickal, Dana White and company. Like I said, Bo Nickal and Paddy Pimblett are on similar terms of that Dana White favoritism because Bo Nickal's best win is Paul Craig. Outside of that, who? Cody Brundage? Val Woodburn? This is the fighters Bo Nickal's beating. He beat Paul Craig, who's what, like 1-4 in his last 5 or something crazy? And Bo Nickal gets ranked at middleweight. This literally is the most privileged ranking I've ever seen across any UFC fighter. Like, this is insane. Bo Nickal is going. The people wonder why nobody likes Bo Nickal. It's because, one, he gets pay-per-view main card slots despite being a rookie in the UFC, right? And then goes on to complain that, oh, guys, how you expect so much out of me? I'm just a rookie. So he plays the victim card whenever people criticize his fighting style. But then the UFC blesses him with number 15 rankings and pay-per-view main card slots. This guy fought on the main card of UFC 300. You know how many other fighters that have carved their way and just grinded for years and years that could have deserved to be over Bo Nickal on a main card? Nonetheless, Dana White, like I said, they thought they were sneaky to sneak this guy into the rankings at number 15. No way Bo Nickal should be a ranked fighter at middleweight. There are other guys, like I said, like Rainier de Ritter, and I have to look at the rankings, but other guys that could deserve to be ranked over Bo Nickal. And it's like, so from here, is Bo Nickal just fighting better competition? Because he said he kind of alluded that he needs to fight worse competition because if he looked like that against Paul Craig, anybody ranked at middleweight, he's going to have a tough time with. I mean, the guys at middleweight are not an easy walk in the park for Bo Nickal, but yeah, I disagree with this. This is honestly the inspiration for this video. Whenever I saw Bo Nickal ranked at number 15, I was like, okay, this has to be a prank, right? Nonetheless, let's get on to the last ranking, and it's going to be Tai Tuivasa being not only ranked at heavyweight, ranked in the top 10. Guys, if you don't know, Tai Tuivasa hasn't won a fight in nearly 4 years. He's on a 5-fight losing streak, and this guy's a top 10 heavyweight. I think this just goes to speak to how crappy heavyweight is in 2025 when Tai Tuivasa is ranked top 10. Honestly, I don't mind Shamil Gaziev being over him. I don't even mind Kennedy and Zetriku over him. I mean, Taliesin Teixeira just beat Junior Tafa, and he's now ranked at heavyweight. Just goes to show you how shallow the heavyweight division is. And that's why it was so confusing on why they cut Jairzinho Rozenstruik. You barely have any heavyweights and you're cutting a top-ranked heavyweight. I know he's not the best, but he's a good win for guys to get to jump up to the title. But, yeah, I don't think Tai Tuivasa is a ranked level, obviously, but this is just more so the UFC just not having any heavyweights, because if the UFC had as many heavyweights as they do like lightweights, Tai Tuivasa should be ranked like number 50. This guy's skill for skill is one of the worst heavyweights on the roster. I mean, if you've seen recent pictures of him, he's blown up to be like 500 pounds. So it's like, what is Tai Tuivasa doing outside of eating barbecue ribs and donuts on his offseason? Either way, yeah, no shot in the world a guy on a 5-fight losing streak should be ranked in the top 10. That's it, guys. This is just UFC rankings I disagree with. Let me know if you guys think what you guys think in the comments. I appreciate it. I'm out, and peace.